voice for Artist in Residence, Oji Ifediora.
Wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, I'm calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future's starting yesterday, and we're already late. Ooh.
put your hands together for Bill and Melinda Gates. Give a warm welcome to their excellencies, the President of the Government of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, and the First Lady, Maria Begoña Gomez. And now, our host for the day, Tumelo Mototwane.
Are you ready for today? Oh man, I'm so excited. Good morning and welcome to this third annual Goalkeepers event held right here in New York. And please, let's give it just one more time for OG Theodora. Wasn't she amazing? I was out there backstage just singing, "We're out there. Did you see me?" Oh, she's absolutely amazing. Now, she's fresh just out of college and using her talent and voice to change the world. But we are all here to make progress happen, of course, around the 17 crucial global goals through collaboration, through innovation, and through action. So, if you came in expecting a half hour on avant-garde jazz, you might just be in for a shock, girlfriend. It ain't happening this morning. But in the last 12 months, there have been goalkeeper gatherings held in Berlin, some were held in Johannesburg, which I was lucky enough to host. And this thing, trust me, it is growing. And take it from me once more, once you got the bug, you just can't keep away. But first things first, let's show you exactly what we've got coming up during this Supercharged Day. We have no less than 2 prime ministers on this stage this very morning. We have Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand. Let's give her a round of applause. We also have Spain's Pedro Sanchez. A round of applause for him. Then Bill Gates will take a look at the goalkeepers report and explore how we can change the odds. Melinda Gates then will follow and take on the reframing of bias and breaking barriers to equality. And then, what we all came for, the coffee break, right? Here for some New York coffee, honey. But after that, we host Goalkeepers First, which is a live recording of the BBC World Debate, which is hosted by Zainab Badawi. Looking forward to that? Yeah? Yeah, we're going to make some celebrities out here. We didn't, forget you. But before we launch into the final session, Goalkeepers Unite, where we'll be turning the focus on what we can all of course, do together, which is next year. And we'll be closing with a grand musical finale, which is exciting, and that, my friends, is your morning. Now, against the backdrop of progress and action for the goals, what is becoming clear is that while breakthroughs on health and development just keep on coming, progress isn't accelerating at the rate it needs to in the places that it needs the most. And while the reasons for that are as complex as you'd imagine, there's one overwhelming factor, rather, and that is inequality. We spoke about that last night. And take it from me, as someone who comes from what is officially termed the most unequal country in the world, which is South Africa. That is something we need to address with a sense of urgency. Now, may the rest and the recent outcry about sexual violence in South Africa be a lesson and the beginning of a new era of equality, of love, and unity in my home country and beyond. Yeah. Well, Goalkeepers is powered by its community, and in the room right now are the vital advisory board members, which is a group of remarkable women and men who offer strategic input into our mission of advancing the goals and the work to expand the reach and network of goalkeepers in their own countries and regions. So if they're here today, please give us a wave. We need to give you a shout out. Can we see, please, advisory board? We just want to wave at you. Okay. Welcome. Well, they will be around at lunch and at this afternoon's workshop, and they want to talk to you, so please seek them out and have conversations, right? But Goalkeepers is also powered by creativity And just as in the past we've had stellar poets and performers this year, we have 3 incredible artists in residence. The stunning Sherry Silver and her dancers who opened the show last night. Did you enjoy that? That was amazing. We also saw the awesome Ogie Theodora who kicked us off today. And we also have our live illustrator, Lorraine Boglio. A round of applause for her as well, who's sitting right here. And we'll be capturing the energy and sound bites in the room, so prepare to be immortalized. People's about to be amazing. And finally, my last message. If over the course of the day you find yourself asking what it takes to be a goalkeeper, it's leadership, it's innovation, it's action to achieve the global goals. It is you. And thank you so much for being here today. We hope the day, of course, is both useful and fun. We want to hear as much from you as possible, so please spread the word and don't forget to hashtag Goalkeepers19. So all the goalkeepers around the world can be a part of this amazing initiative, popping up, of course, in your feed after feed. So we're in the best room in New York City right now, best view, best people, and to prove it, we're about to be joined by someone who not only co-created Goalkeepers, but who by her actions inspires millions, including myself, to think more, to say more, and to do more. Goalkeepers, please give a warm round of applause and welcome to Melinda Gates.
Well, good morning, everyone. The world knows who Prime Minister Ardern is. Not only is she an amazing person as a world leader, she's teaching us how to govern with empathy and with strength. She's a champion for people who too often have the odds stacked against them. Prime Minister Ardern is a champion of women. She's the second elected leader ever to give birth while in office. And she's the first ever to take maternity leave while in office. She's taken that experience and used it to advocate for expanding the rights of women in New Zealand. She's released an international human rights plan in which New Zealand promises to take the lead on, among other things, gender equality and women and girls empowerment. The Prime Minister is a champion for inclusion and for belonging. She's worked with New Zealand's Indigenous Maori people toward better jobs and better wages, and she's striving to move the Maori language to the heart of New Zealand's day-to-day conversations. She articulates, as few others do, the importance of the climate crisis for the future, and she's challenged inaction that she sees by the large states in the Pacific region. She's pledged to have child poverty in the next decade, and after the horrific massacre at Christchurch earlier this year, she guided her nation through its dark hour, and us as a world, at showing what leadership looks like with moral clarity. She's done all of this after only being in office for 2 years, so I'm excited to welcome here a true international leader who understands the future of the world depends on eliminating inequality. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou, and thank you so much for the warmth of your welcome today. If it's not entirely obvious to all of you, I was born in the 1980s, the decade of big hair, big shoulders, and very big reforms. A decade where New Zealand went through a period of rapid privatisation and rapid economic liberalisation. While many have argued that aspects of these reforms were needed to open our economy to the world, the pace of change undeniably came with a high price. Jobs were lost, Manufacturing moved offshore, regulations were removed, and the gap between rich and poor quickly expanded. Then came the 1990s, and New Zealand introduced further reforms that brought user pay to the fore and welfare cuts for the most vulnerable. Now, I was young when all of this was still happening, but I do still remember it. I was the daughter of a policeman in a town of just 3,000 people, and I only had to look around me to see people being left behind. Now, if it's possible to begin building your social conscience when you are just a small child, then that is what happened to me. I never viewed the world through the lens of politics, not then, and in many ways I still don't now. Instead, I try to view it through the lens of children and people, and through the most basic concept and idea of fairness. When I eventually signed up to a political party when I was 17 years old, I wasn't particularly looking for a career. I wanted, perhaps naively, to change the world. I was promptly handed 300 leaflets and told to start changing the world one letterbox at a time. The world has changed immeasurably since then, though. We are both more connected, and yet we are more partisan and more tribal than ever. Inequality has progressed almost as rapidly as development. Now, but thankfully, there are some values that endure. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, we have always tried to look out for each other and tried to do right by one another. Our track record of striving for equality and our values of compassion and fairness are often sources of national pride, but that hasn't always translated into the progress and the gains that we need. But, when it comes to a set of rules for a country to live by, you would struggle to do better than the SDGs. Any serious politician would be hard-pressed to argue with goals like halving poverty or providing decent work or quality education and clean water and peace and justice for all. And yet here we are, still struggling. And perhaps it's time to acknowledge that it's not the aspiration that is the problem, but the domestic political environments in which we are trying to embed them. Now, let me try and explain what I mean by that. As in many countries, our success in New Zealand has traditionally been measured in purely economic terms. And on these terms, New Zealand has been relatively successful, with rates of growth that international commentators have remarked upon and widely commended. However, the deficiency of such measures has become really clear. The reforms of the 80s and 90s that I referenced just before, they have left an enduring mark on our society. While many people in New Zealand enjoy an enviable quality of life, our social statistics, they tell another story for too many. Unacceptable rates of child poverty, a growing homelessness problem, heartbreaking rates of suicide, and distressingly high family violence. Now, these problems, they are an affront to our national values, and yet they are lived experience for far too many people in our country. Economic growth accompanied by worsening social outcomes is not success. It is failure. Turning things around requires changing both the way we think and the way we act and the way we measure success. So to tackle these issues in New Zealand, the government I am proud to lead is doing something not many other countries have tried. We've incorporated the principles of the 2030 Agenda into our domestic policy making in a way that we hope will drive system-level actions. This is not just a new scorecard. It is about fundamentally changing how we make decisions and therefore how we allocate resources. For instance, when deciding where to spend public money and manage our national assets, we've decided it's no longer enough to ask what will drive economic growth. Now the question that we as politicians are asking is, what will do the most to improve both the lives of New Zealanders now, but also in the future? Now, to help us answer that question, in New Zealand we've been having our Treasury developing what's called a living standards framework that measures well-being, it measures risk, it measures resilience across economic, social and environmental domains. It puts sustainable intergenerational well-being at the heart of our decision-making, not just economic growth. Now, this year we delivered our first well-being budget in May. Oh, thank you. Didn't expect you to notice. It took an evidence-based approach and it focused investments in areas like child poverty reduction, helping homeless people off the streets into supported living, sexual and family violence services, and delivering on the aspirations of Māori, our Indigenous people. The centrepiece of the wellbeing budget was the largest ever investment in mental health services New Zealand has ever seen. And this has included the development of a new frontline service where people can get support for mental health needs at their doctor in the same way that they would for a physical ailment. Now, we're investing in mental health because ignoring it is a stain on our society and a drain on our economy. Now, our investment will help people ultimately, we believe, live more fulfilling lives. And a byproduct of that, of course, is that it will increase productivity. That is what real, genuine well-being looks like. It's a values-driven approach to economic success. But it's not just through new policies and programs where we can embed these principles of well-being. For instance, trade is fundamental to New Zealand's economic prosperity. We are a small trading nation, always have been. Well, we are bringing inclusive and sustainability principles to our trade agenda, including by pursuing environmental outcomes in our trade agreements, such as an end to subsidies that encourage illegal fishing. And we strongly advocate for respecting and advancing global rules in the WTO to ensure trade is conducted fairly, rather than on the basis of power, which risks leaving behind both small and developing countries alike. Now, globally, there has been some impressive progress in some SDG areas, such as reductions in extreme poverty and infant mortality, along with respectable progress in discrete areas, such as increased access to electricity. Now, I know we all applaud these advances and the effort taken to achieve them, but in many areas, progress has stalled. Despite global economic growth, the distribution of benefits remains uneven. There has been little change in income inequality, and in some areas, we are going backwards with rising global hunger, rising global greenhouse gas emissions, alarming pressure on natural resources and in the environment. I believe that the change in approach that we have tried and worked hard to adopt in New Zealand, we should perhaps try and work hard to adopt globally. It's about acceleration, but it's also about transformation, how to improve people's well-being and achieve a productive economy at the same time in a way that enhances rather than diminishes our environment and leaves no one behind. Now, internationally, we've had to strengthen the enablers of sustainable development, and we take a values-driven approach. This means prioritising things like human rights, effective governance and democracy, gender equality, women's empowerment, and the sound stewardship of the environment. We also look for practical ways to get closer to our shared goals, and I want to give you an example. And that is our work alongside others to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies and other environmentally harmful subsidies is just one more example. There is no point in subsidising the climate change that we seek to avert. But ultimately, we need more collaboration, more examples of the international community prioritising our collective global well-being over domestic self-interest. Now, we will never pretend in New Zealand that we have all the answers, and there's no guarantee that our approach will succeed. But I absolutely believe that new thinking is required. We are lucky in that we have resources enough to support people in need, but we have also the pragmatism and empathy that is required too. And I hope that we can share what we are doing, whilst at the same time learning from others. So perhaps the urge to change the world that led me to sign up and drop leaflets in 300 mailboxes some 20 years ago wasn't so naive after all. There is strength in collective action and shared responsibility. We just need more of it. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
And now I'm thrilled to have
Y
the
ahora
opportunity to welcome
estoy
to the stage
encantada de
another
poder dar la
incredible
bienvenida
world leader.
a otro
Also young,
gran líder mundial,
also committed
también joven,
to the
también
battle
comprometido
against
con esa
inequality in his own
lucha
country.
contra la desigualdad en su
Prime
propio
Minister
país.
Sanchez has said that the world's
Presidente
response to the
Sánchez ha
global
dicho que la
goals
respuesta
must be one
del mundo
that,
a
quote,
las
puts people first,
ODS deben de pasar primero por las
irrespective of their origin
personas.
or their status.
No importa su origen
Respects our
o su
planet
estatus.
and the
Hay
rights
que
of
respetar
future
el planeta y
Builds
los
peace
derechos de
and
las
justice for all
generaciones
of us
futuras.
and
Paz
belongs
mundial,
to
justicia
all
para
of us.
todos y, al
Prime
fin y al
Minister
cabo, eso
Sanchez
es
has made
parte del
great
patrimonio de
strides
todos.
towards turning this
El
vision into
presidente
reality,
Sánchez ha dado grandes
both at
pasos para
home
hacer que esto sea
and
realidad,
abroad.
tanto
Please
a
join me
nivel
in welcoming the Prime
doméstico
Minister
como
of Spain,
a nivel
Mr.
internacional.
Pedro
Por
Sánchez.
favor, únanse a mí cuando doy la bienvenida al presidente de España, señor Pedro Sánchez.
Buenos días, Nueva York. Good morning, New York. Thank you very much. Gracias a todos y a todas.
Muchas gracias.
It is a true honor to be here with you today.
Es un verdadero honor estar aquí
Thank you
con
very
ustedes
much
hoy.
indeed for your
Muchísimas
generous
gracias por
invitation.
esta generosa
We are
invitación.
certainly facing huge challenges.
Ciertamente nos
nowadays.
enfrentamos a
The climate
retos
emergency,
inmensos hoy en
the
día.
increasing
La emergencia
inequality and
climática,
inequity,
la cada vez
the
mayor
deep
desigualdad y
transformation
falta de
of our
equidad,
societies to
la
the
profunda
digital
transformación de
revolution.
nuestras sociedades
Just
por
to
la
name a few.
revolución digital.
Allow
Estos
me
son
to
solo
give you
algunos
a
de
hint
ellos.
of what is at
Permítanme
stake.
darles una idea de lo que nos
This year,
jugamos.
on the 29th
Este año, el
of
29 de
July,
julio,
we reached the Earth Overshot Day. which
llegamos
means
al Día de la Deuda
that from
Ecológica.
July 13th,
Esto significa
we
que a
started to
partir
consume more resources than
del
the
30 de
planet can
julio
regenerate
hemos empezado a
in a year.
consumir más recursos de los que el planeta
At
puede
this rate,
regenerar en un año.
We will need 1.75 planets
A este
annually
ritmo
to
requeriremos de
maintain our current
1,75
lifestyle.
planetas cada
It is
año
simply
para mantener
unsustainable.
nuestro estado de estilo de vida
There's no
actual.
planet B.
Es insostenible, porque no
There are
tenemos
two
un
ways of
planeta
confronting
B.
this new reality.
Hay dos formas de enfrentarse a esta
One
nueva
of them
realidad.
is by denying it,
Una de ellas
thinking that
es
you, as a
negarla.
country or as a
Pensar
community,
que nosotros,
live somehow
nuestro país, nuestra
isolated in
comunidad,
this,
vivimos
interconnected world.
aislados de alguna manera en este
Being
mundo
sure that you
interconectado.
don't, need anything but your own
Estar
strength,
seguros de que uno no
power,
necesita nada,
closing yourself
excepto
off
la fuerza de
to,
uno y la potencia de uno,
avoidable change.
y cerrarse al
The
cambio
other one is
inexorable.
by becoming really aware of it,
Y la otra
with
es
audacity,
ser consciente
leadership,
de ello,
and determination.
con audacia, con
Being
liderazgo
bold and,
y con
taking
determinación.
full commitment for action.
Ser valiente
Believing that the
y
future
estando
is in
plenamente
our hands.
comprometido con la acción.
Deeply understanding
Creer que el futuro está en
that
nuestras
what
manos.
you do or
Comprender
do not do
profundamente
will have
que lo que hagamos
consequences.
o dejemos de hacer
My
ahora
dear friends,
tendrá
I
consecuencias.
definitely choose
Queridos
the second
amigos,
reaction.
yo desde luego
I
elijo
want to
la
join
segunda
those
reacción.
who believe that together we can
Quiero
address the
unirme
huge
a los que
challenges
piensan
of our
que
time.
juntos podemos abordar esos
I
enormes
firmly
retos de
believe
nuestro
that
tiempo.
multilateralism,
Creo firmemente
dialogue,
que el
and
multilateralismo,
understanding
el
are
diálogo
the only
y la
tools
comprensión son
we have to tackle
las
these
únicas
difficult
herramientas que tenemos
and complex
para
issues.
abordar estas cuestiones tan
The
complejas y difíciles.
2030 agenda is, to put it simply,
La Agenda 2030 es, por decirlo en
it
pocas
is the
palabras,
result
nuestro
of
plan.
an incredible collective effort to deeply transform
Es el
our
resultado de un
societies
esfuerzo
and adapt
colectivo
them
increíble
to
para
the future
transformar
world.
profundamente
An
las
inclusive
sociedades y
and
adaptarlas al
sustainable
futuro que
future for
queremos.
all.
Un
Leaving
futuro
no one
sostenible e
behind.
inclusivo para todos,
Leaving
que no
no one
deje
behind.
a nadie atrás.
This is crucial.
Y esto es crucial.
In the 10 years ahead of us, there are no more
Los próximos
excuses.
10 años
We know that,
no
we
hay
know what
excusa
we
que
have
valga.
to do,
Sabemos lo que tenemos que hacer. Tenemos el marco, tenemos la hoja de ruta y tenemos la voluntad de convertir esa Agenda 2030 en el nuevo contrato social global. Tenemos que asegurarnos que este espíritu extraordinario se convierta en una alianza global importante. En España estamos muy comprometidos con la Agenda 2030 a todos los niveles, a nivel del Gobierno nacional, a nivel transregional, a nivel de las autoridades sociales, la sociedad civil, los académicos, los jóvenes y los no tan jóvenes. Todo el mundo está convirtiendo esta agenda en su agenda propia, en su propio plan para las generaciones venideras. Estamos decididos a convertir la Agenda 2030 en nuestro contrato ético con todos los ciudadanos y nuestra contribución al mundo global. Hemos situado la Agenda 2030 en el centro de nuestras políticas e influye sobre todas las acciones e iniciativas que emprendemos. Todos los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible son cruciales. Todos están entrelazados e interconectados. Y es una de las cosas buenas que caracterizan a la Agenda 2030. Pero permítanme que les hable un poquito más de la importancia de los objetivos número 3 y 4. Son los relativos a la salud y a la educación. En mi opinión, invertir en esos dos objetivos tendrá un efecto cascada sobre muchos otros objetivos, como por ejemplo erradicar la pobreza o reducir las desigualdades y la falta de equidad. También sentará las bases para que las personas alcancen todo su potencial y prosperen en la vida. Si uno no tiene salud, si uno no tiene acceso a la educación, la vida es más difícil, se ve obstaculizada. Veo estos objetivos como los grandes niveladores sociales, como unas herramientas que podrían poner fin al determinismo social. Por eso, para mí es un gran placer anunciar que España va a regresar a la comunidad de donantes. Estamos preparados para aportar 100 millones de euros al fondo conjunto de la Agenda 2030 en los próximos 5 años y 100 millones de euros más al Fondo Global para la lucha contra el SIDA, la malaria y la tuberculosis en los próximos 3 años. Queridos amigos, me gustaría terminar felicitando el enorme y admirable esfuerzo de la Fundación Bill y Melinda Gates, que está trabajando tan duro y tan bien para avanzar en muchas de estas cuestiones. Son ustedes un ejemplo de liderazgo, de generosidad, de solidaridad y de trabajo duro y fuerte. Y compartimos el lema de su fundación. Somos optimistas impacientes que trabajamos para reducir la desigualdad de nuestro mundo. Yo defiendo un programa humanista que sitúe a las personas en el centro de todas las acciones, en un planeta con recursos limitados. Necesitamos que nuestro planeta dure. Defiendo la igualdad de oportunidades para todos, independientemente de dónde vivan, su orientación sexual, su identidad de género, su raza, su estatus económico y, sobre todo, la igualdad de oportunidades para hombres y mujeres. Defiendo la libertad de todos y cada uno para enfrentarse a los retos del futuro con la garantía de poder realizar sus proyectos de vida sin que se limiten sus derechos. Y sin duda, defiendo el principio de solidaridad y el compromiso ético con el desarrollo y la prosperidad para todos. Pueden contar con España. Queremos construir el futuro con ustedes. Queremos transformar nuestro mundo para que nadie quede atrás.
Tenemos que confirmar y transformar nuestro mundo para que nadie quede atrás. Muchas gracias. Many thanks for your attention.
Muchas gracias por su atención.
Thank you. No lo quiero sacar.
Bueno, ahora tenemos ocasión de charlar. El presupuesto en Nueva Zelanda. Me ha interesado. ¿Qué acogida tuvo? ¿Otros países van a hacer otro tanto? Hombre, yo evidentemente tengo un sesgo. A lo mejor hay alguien más que lo pueda decir aquí en la sala, pero en cierto modo lo que hacemos es mostrar qué pasa si vas más allá de lo que es el Producto Interior Bruto. Cuando tomamos decisiones a la hora de cómo asignar los recursos, más allá de lo que es el análisis coste-beneficio y buscando también centrarnos en el potencial de las personas, ya nos centramos en los sin techo, en, por ejemplo, la lucha contra la violencia doméstica. Y al final, esto es natural, sale de ello lo que nos ha salido a nosotros, así que un paso tras otro, vamos a seguir haciéndolo. Yo espero muy mucho que otros países hagan otro tanto. Presidente Sánchez, 2/3 de su gabinete, tengo entendido, son mujeres, ¿verdad? ¿Y eso por qué? ¿Y por qué cree que es importante, no solo para España, sino para el mundo?
Yo soy un político feminista. Estoy muy orgulloso y es un honor encabezar un gobierno en el que el 65% de sus miembros son mujeres. Y no solamente en ámbitos tradicionales donde suele haber mujeres. Tenemos mujeres a la cabeza de presupuestos, de finanzas, de transición ecológica, de defensa, la vicepresidencia. Lo importante es tener en cuenta que la igualdad de género no es una cuestión sectorial. Es una política horizontal y por eso lo hemos situado en las prioridades del Gobierno a nivel de la vicepresidencia. Por eso hemos aprobado también legislación sobre muchas cuestiones, pero lo importante es que demos una perspectiva de género a todas las políticas que aprobemos en el Parlamento Nacional. Y esto me parece crucial. Esta es, digamos, la innovación que hemos asumido a la hora de actuar en el gobierno español.
Ambos nos van dando ejemplo con su actuación, pero a día de hoy muchos líderes funcionan a golpe de crear miedo o de agitar cuestiones que son negativas para el mundo. Entonces, los goalkeepers, los actores aquí presentes, los jóvenes, ¿cómo podrían seguir su ejemplo? ¿Qué consejo les darían? Bueno, realmente creo que todos hemos crecido con una idea de lo que supone el liderazgo. Y luego ves el ejemplo en la política y pasa lo que pasa. Pero bueno, si cierras tus ojos y piensas en una figura política y en la personalidad y en su aspecto, por ejemplo, en casa, que somos muy claros y honestos, no necesariamente te dicen las cosas que te gustan oír, pero te dicen claramente las cosas. Lo que es el ego, la mentira, lo que la gente asocia a la vida política, pues aquí no cuajan. Entonces, cuando se piensa en liderazgo político, pues yo diría que tiene que ser algo que case conmigo, si no, yo no iría por esa vía. Y si no te comportas así, y si, por ejemplo, eres más empático, no eres especialmente agresivo, hay quien piensa que no vas a tener éxito como político. Estamos en una era de transición, por lo menos eso me gustaría creer. Ahora ya hay cabida para otros tipos de liderazgo, con compasión, con empatía, y aún así que consideren que eso es prueba de valentía, de fuerza, y que uno puede ser amable y no por ello tener menos fuerza y determinación. Es cuestión de modular esas características y cómo se lo hacemos llegar a los niños, porque no tiene sentido que prediquemos con algo de cara a los niños y que luego cuando somos líderes mundiales eso lo dejemos atrás. Así que tenemos que ser nosotros mismos, que la empatía fluya.
Yo estoy de acuerdo. Bueno, en primer lugar, creo que tenemos que hablar claramente. A veces cuando oímos las declaraciones de algunos líderes políticos, como por ejemplo ayer en la Asamblea General de la ONU, tenemos una perspectiva muy negativa de la política y de la política global en particular. Pero tenemos que ser claros también a la hora de lanzar esos mensajes, de decirle a la gente que la política debe dar esperanzas a la gente, dar soluciones positivas, construcciones constructivas a los retos globales que nos aguardan. Si damos esperanza en lugar de emociones negativas y en lugar de respuestas endogámicas a esos retos globales a los que nos enfrentamos, creo firmemente que la gente aumentará su confianza en la política. Así que esperanza, determinación, ser muy claro en nuestras declaraciones, con valores muy fuertes, en lo que en mi opinión son los principios básicos, que son los de la Revolución Francesa: la libertad, la igualdad y la fraternidad. En muchas ocasiones nos centramos en la igualdad y en la libertad y olvidamos que el principio más importante hoy en día en este mundo en el que vivimos es la fraternidad. Creo firmemente que debemos ser más empáticos y defender fuertemente este principio, porque ese es el futuro de nuestro planeta.
Bueno, de parte de Bill, servidora y todos los que están aquí en la sala, queremos daros las gracias por ese liderazgo basado en valores y por vuestro liderazgo en el mundo, porque resuena en todo el mundo, no solo en vuestros dos países. Muchas gracias.
You'd think we'd have equality figured out by now. We talk about it enough. We put it on our flags, buildings, and currency. We fight and sacrifice for it. And we have made stunning progress. Child mortality has been cut in half. Education rates have doubled. But one stark fact still holds true. Where you were born determines your future. Like this baby, or this baby, or these babies, or this one. But the odds that the baby born here will